The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the usual bureaucratic droning when Commander Vex'thari first heard about the human cadet assignment. She clicked her mandibles together in what her species considered a laugh. A single human, fresh from their academy, being sent to observation post Delta 9. Alone. "This has to be some kind of mistake," she muttered, her 3 eyes scanning the datapad again. "No mistake, Commander," replied her aide, a nervous skrill named Pip. His scales turned a pale yellow, indicating confusion. "The Human Fleet Command specifically requested this posting for Cadet Riley Hoffman." Riley Hoffman. The name sounded absurd to Vex'thari's ears, all soft consonants and rounded vowels. Humans. They were new to the Galactic Council, barely 2 cycles since first contact, and already they were doing typically strange human things. Delta 9 was a joke posting, a glorified weather station on the edge of contested space, monitoring the asteroid belt between Tarsus Prime and the Krovik territories. Nothing ever happened there. Well, nothing until the Krovik decided to get ambitious, but that was supposedly years away according to intelligence reports. "Fine," Vex'thari said, waving a clawed appendage dismissively. "Let the soft skin sit in a tin can for 6 months. Maybe it will teach their commanders to respect proper military protocol." 3 weeks later, Vex'thari found herself regretting those words. The emergency broadcast came through at 0400 hours station time. Delta 9 was under attack. Krovik raiders, a full squad of them, had breached the perimeter and were attempting to seize the observation post. Standard procedure dictated immediate evacuation for a solo operator. But when Vex'thari pulled up the live feed, expecting to see an empty station and a fleeing escape pod, her central eye widened in disbelief. The human was still there. Riley Hoffman stood in the main corridor, and she was not alone. Next to her, moving with an ungodly confidence that made Vex'thari's blood run cold, was a creature. Small, stocky, with distinctive black and white markings, and an attitude that radiated pure, concentrated violence. "What in the 17 hells is that thing?" Vex'thari demanded. Pip scrambled to access the database. Cross-referencing Earth fauna now, Commander? It appears to be something called a honey badger, scientific designation Mellivora capensis. According to the file, it is listed as Cadet Hoffman's emotional support animal. "Emotional support?" Vex'thari repeated, her voice climbing several octaves. "That thing looks like it provides emotional damage, not support." On screen, the first Krovik warrior rounded the corner. The Krovik were not small beings. They averaged 2 meters tall, built like living tanks, with armored hide and tusks that could gore through hull plating. This particular specimen carried a plasma rifle and wore full combat gear. The honey badger, which barely reached the Krovik's knee, looked up at the warrior. Then it attacked. "By the ancients," Pip whispered. The creature moved like liquid fury, scampering up the Krovik's leg faster than the eye could track. The warrior barely had time to roar before the honey badger latched onto his face. There was a wet, crunching sound that made even Vex'thari's combat-hardened stomach turn. Riley, meanwhile, had grabbed a maintenance tool, a simple plasma torch, and was calmly cutting through the support beam above the corridor. She worked with the kind of casual focus someone might use while making breakfast. "Brutus, back!" she called out. The honey badger, apparently named Brutus, dropped from the now screaming Krovik and waddled back to Riley's side. Its snout was covered in purple Krovik blood. It sat down and began cleaning its face with its paws, looking utterly unbothered. Riley finished her cut. The support beam crashed down, crushing the Krovik and blocking the corridor. "One down," Riley said, cheerfully. "Hey, Brutus, you want some treats after this?" Brutus made a chirping sound that might have been agreement. Vex'thari realized her mouth was hanging open. "Get me a response team to Delta 9. Now!" "Commander?" "The nearest patrol is 4 hours away," Pip said, checking the tactical display. "Then tell them to hurry." I want to see how this ends. Back on Delta 9, Riley had retreated to the command center, sealing the blast doors behind her. The station's defense systems were minimal, designed for early warning, not actual combat. 6 Krovik warriors remained, and they were not happy about their fallen comrade. "Station to any council ship in range," Riley transmitted, her voice steady. "This is Cadet Riley Hoffman, at Delta 9. Under attack by Krovik raiders. I am not evacuating. Repeat. I am holding position." "Cadet Hoffman, this is Commander Vex'thari of the Council 3rd Fleet. Your orders are to evacuate immediately. You cannot hold that position against 6 Krovik warriors." There was a pause. Then Riley's voice came back, tinged with what Vex'thari was learning to recognize as human sarcasm. "With respect, Commander, you might be right if I was alone. But I am not alone. I have Brutus." The honey badger appeared on camera, sitting on the command console. It was now eating what looked like a protein bar, seemingly unconcerned with the 6 heavily armed aliens trying to break through the blast doors. "That creature is maybe 5 kilograms, Vex'thari protested. 7.3 kilograms, actually, Riley corrected. He has been on a bulk. The blast doors began to glow red as the Krovik used cutting torches. Riley checked a readout and nodded to herself. "You know what to do." The honey badger finished its protein bar, dropped to the floor, and positioned itself near a ventilation shaft. Riley popped the grate off. "You are sending it through the vents?" Vex'thari asked, unable to help herself. "Yep. Brutus loves the vents. He is like a furry, bitey missile in there." Brutus disappeared into the shaft. For a moment, there was silence, except for the sound of cutting torches on metal. Then the screaming started. The Krovik outside the blast doors began firing wildly. Their disciplined formation dissolved into chaos as something small and vicious attacked from the ventilation system above them. One warrior went down, clutching his leg. Another fired his plasma rifle at the ceiling, only to hit his own teammate. "It got Marak in the throat," one of them shouted in their guttural language. The translator chip in Vex'thari's ear converted it smoothly. "What is this demon creature?" Riley, listening to the same translation, grinned. "Demon creature. I like that. Brutus, you hear that? You are being promoted to demon." A chittering sound came from the vents. It sounded pleased. 2 more Krovik went down, one dragged into a vent shaft screaming. The remaining 3 made a tactical decision and ran. They did not make it far. Riley had been busy during the attack, accessing the station's environmental controls. As the Krovik fled down the main corridor, she vented the atmosphere from that section, then resealed it before Brutus was affected. The 3 warriors collapsed, gasping in the sudden vacuum. "Repressurizing now," Riley said calmly, restoring atmosphere. "They will wake up with a headache, but they will live. Brutus, come on back, buddy." The honey badger emerged from a vent near Riley, looking remarkably satisfied with himself. Riley produced another protein bar, which Brutus accepted graciously. Vex'thari stared at her screen in stunned silence. "Commander?" Pip ventured carefully. "The response team is still 3 hours out. Tell them they can slow down," Vex'thari said faintly. "The situation is under control." "Should I mark this as a successful defense by a single human cadet?" Pip asked. "Mark it as a successful defense by a human cadet and her emotional support honey badger," Vex'thari corrected. "Because apparently that is a thing we need to account for now." 2 hours later, Riley had secured all 7 Krovik raiders in the station's cargo bay, hands bound with emergency restraint tape. Brutus sat on a crate nearby, watching them with beady eyes that promised violence if anyone tried anything. The Krovik, to their credit, sat very, very still. When the council response team finally arrived, led by Vex'thari herself, they found Riley sitting in the command center, filing a very detailed after-action report. Brutus was asleep in her lap, snoring softly. "Cadet Hoffman," Vex'thari said, stepping into the command center. Up close, the human was smaller than expected, barely reaching Vex'thari's shoulder. Young, too, probably early 20s in Earth years. She had dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and startlingly green eyes that seemed entirely too calm for someone who had just fought off 7 Krovik raiders. "Commander Vex'thari," Riley said, standing and offering a salute. Brutus grumbled at being disturbed, but did not wake. "Good to finally meet you in person. Sorry about the mess." "The mess," Vex'thari repeated. She gestured at the secured prisoners, the damaged corridor, the blast marks on the walls. "You consider this a mess?" "Well, I did cut through a support beam. Maintenance is going to be annoyed." Riley shrugged. "But it was structurally sound." I checked. Vex'thari's mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "Cadet, you were ordered to evacuate." "With respect, Commander, I was never given a direct order to evacuate. I received a suggestion that I could not hold this position." Riley's eyes sparkled with barely suppressed amusement. "I disagreed with that assessment." "Because of him?" Vex'thari pointed at Brutus. "Well, yes. Brutus is very good at his job." "Being a small, furry terror?" Riley laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. "Basically, yes. Honey badgers are native to Africa on Earth. They have a reputation. There is this old saying, 'Honey badger doesn't care,' because they really don't. They fight off lions, hyenas, even Cape buffalo. They have this crazy thick skin that is hard to bite through, and they are resistant to venom from snakes and bees. Oh, and they are smart. Really smart." As if on cue, Brutus opened one eye, assessed Vex'thari as a non-threat, and went back to sleep. "Your species allows you to bring predators on military assignments?" Vex'thari asked. "Emotional support animals are permitted under our regulations," Riley said primly. "Brutus keeps me calm." Vex'thari looked at the sleeping ball of controlled violence, and then at the 7 subdued Krovik warriors. "Calm. Right. I am calm. He is the one who gets excited." Riley scratched behind Brutus's ears affectionately. "But honestly, Commander, I requested this posting specifically because it was remote. Brutus does not do well in crowded areas. Too many people stress him out. And when he gets stressed, well, things happen." "What kind of things?" "The last incident involved a visiting admiral's hat and an unfortunate incident with a ventilation system," Riley said diplomatically. "It was deemed best if Brutus and I took a quiet assignment for a while." Vex'thari was beginning to understand that humans had a very different definition of the word quiet. "The Krovik will face council justice," she said, shifting back to official business. "Your defense of this station will be noted in your record. This was, I must admit, impressive work for a cadet on her first solo assignment." "Thank you, Commander. Though technically, it is not solo if I have Brutus." "Technically," Vex'thari agreed dryly. "Tell me, Cadet Hoffman, how did you remain so calm during the attack?" Riley considered the question seriously. "My dad was military. He always said, 'Panic is just your brain trying to help but not having enough information.' So I focused on what I knew: station layout, environmental controls, Brutus's capabilities, and Krovik tactical doctrine from my training. Plus," she grinned, "I knew Brutus would not let anything happen to me. He is very protective." "I noticed," Vex'thari said. "I reviewed the footage. That initial attack on the first Krovik was disturbing. Yeah, Brutus goes for the face. It is his thing. Very effective, psychologically speaking. Once the others saw what happened to their friend, they were already halfway to losing." Vex'thari filed that information away under things she never wanted to think about again. "The council will need to debrief you extensively," she said. This attack was not random. The Krovik are testing our defenses. Your successful repulsion of their raid has significant strategic implications. Does that mean I get to keep my posting? Riley asked hopefully. Brutus really likes it here. Vex'thari looked at the human, at her small but clearly deadly companion, and made a decision that she suspected would change more than just one cadet's career. Cadet Hoffman, how would you feel about staying on Delta 9, but with upgraded defensive systems and a small support staff? Will they be okay with Brutus? They will be required to be okay with Brutus, Vex'thari said firmly. Consider this station upgraded from observation post to forward defensive position, with you and your emotional support animal as the primary deterrent. Riley's smile could have lit up the entire sector. That sounds perfect, Commander. Brutus chose that moment to wake fully, yawning to display a truly impressive set of teeth. He looked at Vex'thari, chirped once, and then waddled over to his food bowl. Vex'thari watched him go. This tiny creature that had single-pawedly defended a council station against 7 Krovik raiders. One more question, Cadet. Yes, Commander? Does Earth have more creatures like this? Riley's grin turned positively wicked. Oh, Commander. We have cassowaries, wolverines, hippos, saltwater crocodiles, and my personal favorite, the Australian box jellyfish. Brutus is actually on the friendlier end of Earth's fauna. Vex'thari made a mental note to update the Council's threat assessment of Earth, significantly. I look forward to reading your full report, Cadet Hoffman. I will have it ready within the hour, Commander. Come on, Brutus. Let's get you cleaned up. As Riley left with her honey badger padding beside her, Vex'thari turned to Pip. Make a note. All future human assignments should include detailed information about any accompanying Earth fauna, especially if it is labeled emotional support. Yes, Commander. Though, if I may, that was rather extraordinary. It was terrifying, Vex'thari corrected. The human was calm, competent, and completely confident in her abilities. And, that creature is going to give me nightmares. But they won. Commander! That! Vex'thari said, watching Riley scratch Brutus behind the ears through the security feed, the honey badger leaning into the touch with obvious contentment, is exactly what terrifies me. The promotion came through faster than Riley expected. 3 weeks after the Krovik incident, she received orders upgrading Delta 9 from a forgotten observation outpost to a strategic forward garrison. With the promotion came supplies, personnel, and a shiny new rank insignia. Lieutenant Junior Grade Riley Hoffman. It had a nice ring to it. What did not have a nice ring to it was the expression on her new crew's faces when they arrived and met Brutus. That is a honey badger, stated Lieutenant Kresh, a towering Vorantine with purple skin and 4 arms. He pointed at Brutus, who was currently excavating a hole near the landing pad for reasons known only to himself. I have read the reports. I thought they were exaggerated. Nope, Riley said cheerfully. If anything, the reports undersold him. Brutus is special. Ensign Mira, a Quillan whose species resembled bipedal cats, watched Brutus with professional interest. He does not look that dangerous. As if accepting a challenge, Brutus emerged from his hole, carrying what appeared to be a mechanical servo arm from some ancient piece of equipment. He trotted over to Riley and dropped it at her feet, like a prize. Good boy, Brutus, but we talked about this. No digging up the infrastructure. Riley picked up the servo arm. Where did you even find this? Brutus made a pleased chirping sound and went back to his hole. The third member of her new team, a human named Marcus Webb, just laughed. Oh man, Command did not tell me you had a badger. My grandmother had stories about these guys. Said she saw one chase off a leopard once in Zimbabwe. Your grandmother had excellent taste in wildlife encounters, Riley said, offering Marcus a handshake. Welcome to Delta 9. I hope you all read the briefing about Brutus's dietary requirements and territorial behaviors. Kresh's 4 arms crossed simultaneously. The briefing mentioned he requires 3.7 kilograms of protein daily, has free roam of the station, and, quote, does not respond well to loud noises or sudden movements. That about covers it. Oh, also do not touch his food bowl. He gets cranky. Define cranky, Mira said suspiciously. Bitey. Very bitey. The Quillen's ears flattened against her head. Wonderful. The first week went smoothly, all things considered. Kresh adapted quickest, treating Brutus with the kind of respectful distance one might give a live explosive. Marcus bonded with the honey badger immediately, sneaking him extra treats when he thought Riley was not watching. She was always watching, but Marcus's heart was in the right place, so she let it slide. Mira took longer to warm up. She spent the first 3 days avoiding Brutus entirely, until she made the mistake of sitting in his favorite chair in the rec room. Brutus had opinions about this. Why is he staring at me? Mira asked nervously, as Brutus sat 3 feet away, fixed her with an unblinking gaze. That is his chair, Riley explained, from across the room. The briefing did not mention assigned seating. I may have forgotten to include that addendum. Just move to the other chair. He will calm down. Mira relocated. Brutus immediately claimed his chair, circled 3 times, and settled in for a nap. The Quillen watched him warily. He is actually quite cute when he sleeps, she admitted grudgingly. Do not let him hear you say that. He has a reputation to maintain. Commander Vex'thari visited Delta 9 regularly now, using it as a forward command point for patrols in the sector. On her 4th visit, she brought news that made Riley's stomach tighten. Intelligence suggests the Krovik are planning something bigger, Vex'thari said, spreading tactical displays across the command center table. The raid on this station was a probe. They wanted to test our response times and defensive capabilities. They got Brutus instead, Marcus noted. That must have been confusing for their tactical analysts. Vex'thari's mandibles clicked in what Riley had learned was amusement. According to intercepted communications, the Krovik High Command initially refused to believe the after-action reports. They thought their warriors were making excuses for failure. Then we sent them the security footage. And, Riley prompted, they have declared the Honey Badger a Class 4 threat entity, the same classification they give to armored battle mechs. Vex'thari's 3 eyes gleamed with something that might have been pride. Congratulations! Brutus is now officially recognized as a weapon of war by the Krovik Dominion. Brutus, who had been napping under the table, opened one eye at hearing his name. Finding nothing interesting happening, he went back to sleep. He wears the title well, Kresh observed dryly. But the humor faded as Vex'thari continued her briefing. We have detected unusual activity 3 sectors away. Krovik fleet movements, troop buildups. They are preparing for a major offensive, and Delta 9 sits directly in their projected path. How major are we talking? Riley asked. Possibly a full battle group. 20 ships, maybe more. Ground forces in the thousands. Vex'thari's voice was grim. Council reinforcements are being mobilized, but they are 2 days out. If the Krovik move before then, you will be on your own. The command center fell silent. We can handle it, Riley said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at her. Lieutenant, with respect, you have 4 personnel and a honey badger, Vex'thari said carefully, against a Krovik battle group. We held against 7 raiders. We can hold against more. The station has been upgraded. We have proper defensive systems now. Automated turrets, shield generators. Plus, Riley smiled, they are scared of Brutus. Fear is a tactical advantage. Marcus nodded slowly. She has a point, Commander. The psychological warfare potential here is significant. If the Krovik already consider this station defended by a demon creature, they will approach cautiously. That buys us time. You are all insane, Mira muttered. But she did not disagree. Vex'thari studied Riley for a long moment. You understand if the Krovik commit fully to this assault, Even with your preparations, survival is not guaranteed. I understand, Commander. But this is our post. We hold the line. That is the job. Something shifted in Vex'thari's posture, a subtle straightening of her spine. Very well. I will leave you 2 additional defense drones and authorization to access the station's emergency weapons locker. Make them regret ever pointing their fleet this direction. After Vex'thari left, the crew of Delta 9 began preparations. They ran drills, tested systems, and fortified positions. Brutus, sensing the tension, became more alert, patrolling the station with unusual focus. The attack came 36 hours later. Alarms shrieked through Delta 9 as sensors detected the incoming Krovik fleet. Riley reached the command center in seconds, Brutus at her heels. She barked. 18 Krovik warships entering weapons range, Kresh reported, his 4 hands flying across multiple control stations. They are broadcasting surrender demands. Tell them we respectfully decline, Riley said, activating the defense grid. Marcus, how are our shields? Holding at full strength. Automated turrets are online and tracking targets. Mira pulled up tactical displays. They are deploying drop pods. Looks like 3 full assault teams. 150 warriors, maybe more. Brutus, Riley said calmly. The honey badger looked up at her, alert and ready. You know what to do, buddy. Make them remember why they should have stayed home. Brutus made a sound that was half chirp, half growl. It was not a comforting noise. The first wave of Krovik warriors hit the station's outer hull with magnetic clamps and cutting tools. Riley watched them on the monitors, counting silently. Let them breach Section 7, she ordered. Kresh, vent Sections 5 and 8, on my mark. Marcus, bring turret batteries to stand by. You are letting them in? Mira asked, ears flat with stress. I am choosing my battlefield. There is a difference. Riley pulled up schematics of Section 7. That area has the most vent access. Perfect for Brutus. The honey badger had already positioned himself, waiting with predatory patience as the Krovik cut through the hull. The moment the breach opened, he vanished into the ventilation system. What followed was methodical chaos. The Krovik entered Delta 9 expecting resistance. What they got was a nightmare. Brutus struck from above, below, and angles they did not know existed. The security feeds showed warriors firing wildly at shadows, hitting each other in their panic. Section 7 compromised. One Krovik commander reported to his ship. We are taking heavy casualties from an unknown hostile. Define unknown, his superior demanded. It is small, fast, and appears to be unkillable. Weapons fire has no effect. Jorvik lost his hand. Threx is missing. Something dragged him into the walls. Riley listened to the translated communications with grim satisfaction. Kresh, vent Section 5 now. Drive them toward the cargo bay. The Vorentine complied. Atmospheric pressure shifts forced the surviving Krovik warriors to retreat, funneling them exactly where Riley wanted them. Meanwhile, the Krovik fleet hammered Delta 9's shields with plasma cannons. The station shuddered under each impact, but the upgraded defensive systems held. Shields at 60%, Marcus called out. We can take maybe 10 more volleys before they fail. Then we make sure they do not get 10 more chances. Mira, target their lead cruiser's port engine. Fire Solution Alpha. The Quillen's claws danced across her console. Locked. Firing. Delta 9's main cannon, a weapon that had been gathering dust until the recent upgrades, roared to life. The concentrated plasma beam struck the Krovik cruiser exactly where Mira had aimed. The ship's engine exploded in a brilliant flash. Direct hit! Their cruiser is breaking formation. Good. Target the next ship. Keep them worried about their fleet, while Brutus handles their ground forces. In the cargo bay, 30 Krovik warriors had regrouped, trying to establish a defensive position. They had sealed the entrances and set up overlapping fields of fire. It did not matter. Brutus emerged from a ceiling vent they had not thought to guard, landing directly on the squad commander's head. The warrior went down screaming. The others opened fire, but Brutus was already moving, too fast and too small to track reliably. Fall. Back! Fall back! The Krovik, second in command, tried to rally his troops, but discipline had shattered. Warriors fled in every direction, some back toward their entry point, others deeper into the station. Both choices were wrong. Riley had lined the corridors with emergency containment fields. Warriors ran face first into invisible barriers, stunning themselves. The automated turrets Marcus controlled picked off stragglers with ruthless efficiency. Krovik ground forces at 40% combat effectiveness, Kresh reported. They are requesting emergency extraction. Jam their communications, Riley ordered. I do not want them coordinating with their fleet. Above Delta 9, the Krovik ships realized they were not facing a helpless outpost. After losing 2 cruisers and a destroyer to the station's surprisingly accurate return fire, the fleet commander made a tactical error. He committed his remaining forces to a concentrated assault on one shield quadrant. Riley had been waiting for exactly that mistake. Marcus, divert all power from the other 3 shield faces. Route everything to the targeted quadrant. Mira, prepare missile batteries. That is going to make us vulnerable everywhere else, Marcus warned. They are not shooting everywhere else. They are fixated on breaking through that one section. Let them waste their firepower. The Krovik fleet pounded the reinforced shield segment, scoring no meaningful damage while exposing their formations. Mira waited until they had clustered together, then launched every missile Delta 9 possessed. The spread of warheads carved through the Krovik fleet like a blade. 3 more ships suffered critical damage. The remainder finally broke off, pulling back to regroup. Fleet is withdrawing to extreme weapons range, Mira reported, disbelief coloring her voice. We actually hurt them. Damage report, Riley demanded. Shields at 30% but recovering. Hull breaches in sections 5 and 7, both sealed. Casualties. None on our side. Krovik ground forces have 70% losses. The rest are either unconscious or surrendering. Riley allowed herself a small smile. Somebody find Brutus and tell him mission accomplished. The honey badger emerged from a vent 5 minutes later, looking extremely pleased with himself. He had lost a few tufts of fur and had what looked like scorch marks on his back, but otherwise seemed fine. You absolute maniac, Riley said affectionately, scooping him up. Brutus licked her face, leaving a smear of something she chose not to identify. You beautiful, terrifying, perfect little war beast. The Krovik fleet is hailing us, Kresh announced, surprise evident in his voice. Riley set Brutus down and straightened her uniform. Put them through. The screen flickered to show a scarred Krovik commander, his tusks adorned with what Riley assumed were rank markers. He looked furious. Human station, you have fought well. We were not prepared for your defenses. That tends to happen when you attack without proper intelligence. Riley replied coolly. I accept your surrender. The Krovik commander's eyes widened. We are not surrendering. We are offering terms for mutual withdrawal. Counteroffer. You withdraw. Leave your ground forces here as prisoners of war, and I do not sick my honey badger on your remaining ships. There was a long pause. Your what? Riley picked up Brutus and held him to the camera. My honey badger. You have already met him. He is the reason 70% of your ground forces are currently unconscious or screaming. Imagine what he could do if I loaded him into a boarding pod and aimed it at your flagship. The Krovik commander's face went through several interesting color changes. You would not. Try me. Brutus loves meeting new people. Brutus, right on cue, made his most aggressive chirping growl. The sound translated poorly through the communication system, coming out as a distorted shriek that made the Krovik flinch. We withdraw, the commander said quickly. We leave our ground forces. We do not return. Smart choice. Tell your superiors that Delta 9 is under the protection of Earth and the Galactic Council, and that we have a honey badger. Make sure they understand the significance of that last part. The communication cut off. Within the hour, the Krovik fleet had jumped to faster-than-light travel, fleeing the sector. Riley slumped into her command chair, exhaustion finally hitting her. Status of prisoners? All secured and receiving medical attention, Kresh reported. None of them want to go near the cargo bay. Apparently, that is where the demon creature lives now. Brutus does like the cargo bay. Lots of space to run around. Riley scratched behind the honey badger's ears. You did good, buddy. Really good. Marcus was grinning like a fool. We just held off a Krovik battle group. 4 people and a honey badger versus a fleet. They are going to write training scenarios about this. They are going to think we are lying, Mira corrected, but she was smiling too. No one will believe a 7-kilogram Earth predator was the deciding factor in a major battle. Let them doubt, Riley said. We know the truth. This station holds because we hold it. Together. When Commander Vex'thari arrived with the Council Relief Force 6 hours later, she found Delta 9 battered but intact, its crew exhausted but victorious, and one honey badger napping contentedly in a sunbeam. I need a full report, Vex'thari said, surveying the damage. Krovik attacked with 18 ships and 150 ground forces. We repelled them with 0 friendly casualties and 78 enemy prisoners of war. Brutus performed admirably. Riley handed over a data chip. Full tactical breakdown is here. Vex'thari took the chip, her mandibles clicking slowly. The Krovik are filing a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. About what? They claim using biological warfare agents against them violates treaty provisions. Specifically, they are demanding that honey badgers be classified as illegal weapons under the Centara Conventions. Riley, Marcus, Kresh, and Mira all stared at Vex'thari. Then, simultaneously, they burst out laughing. They want to ban Brutus? Riley managed between giggles. As a weapons treaty violation? The Council is still debating the matter, Vex'thari said, her own voice tinged with amusement. Current consensus is that since honey badgers are naturally occurring Earth fauna and not manufactured weapons, the treaty does not apply. However, there is now a proposal to require special licensing for any personnel who wish to bring Earth predators on military assignments. The Brutus Clause, Marcus said. It has a nice ring to it. Vex'thari fixed Riley with all 3 eyes. You understand this changes things. Delta 9 is now famous, or infamous. The station that held against a Krovik battle group with 4 defenders and a honey badger, every ambitious warrior in this sector is going to want to test themselves against you. Let them come, Riley said simply. We will be ready. That is what concerns me. You sound like you are looking forward to it. Riley smiled. Not looking forward to it, Commander, but not afraid either. We proved something today. Size does not matter. Numbers do not matter. What matters is courage, creativity, and having a really good teammate. She looked down at Brutus. Even if that teammate weighs 7.3 kilograms and eats his weight in protein every week. Brutus opened one eye, determined that nothing interesting was happening, and went back to sleep. 3 months later, Delta 9 received a new designation. Strategic Defense Station Hoffman, named in honor of the young lieutenant who had held an impossible position against impossible odds. The crew expanded to 20, with volunteers from a dozen species, all wanting to serve at the famous station. They all had to pass one critical test, meeting Brutus and not panicking. Most failed. Riley stood on the observation deck, watching supply ships come and go. Brutus sitting beside her as he often did during quiet moments. You know what is funny? She said to the honey badger. Command sent me here because they thought it would be quiet. Boring. A place where you could not get into trouble. Brutus made a thoughtful chirping sound. Yeah, I think that plan did not work out quite how they expected, but I would not change it. This is exactly where we are supposed to be. Defending the edge of explored space, one Krovik battle group at a time. Her communicator chimed. Marcus's voice came through. Lieutenant, we have incoming vessel. It is broadcasting Krovik identification codes, but requesting peaceful passage. Riley sighed. Here we go again. Tell them they can pass, but if they so much as power up a weapon, Brutus gets to play. Acknowledged. They are asking if the demon creature is present on station. Tell them yes, and that he is in a very good mood today, which somehow makes him more terrifying. Brutus looked up at Riley and made a sound that was definitely, absolutely, a laugh. The Krovik ship passed through the sector without incident, maintaining a very respectful distance from Delta 9. Word had spread across the galaxy. There was a human station on the edge of space. It was defended by warriors who refused to retreat, and a small Earth predator that had achieved legendary status among multiple species. Some called it propaganda. Others called it impossible. Those who had seen the security footage called it truth. And on Delta 9, Riley Hoffman continued her duty, proving every single day that humans were never truly alone. Not when they had courage, creativity, and the galaxy's most dangerous emotional support animal. Brutus, for his part, was just happy to have plenty of protein bars and people to protect. After all, Honey Badger did not care about impossible odds. Honey Badger just won.